Hello everybody and welcome back to the Serpentine Snipes YouTube channel. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a different video for you, and we're going to be doing a tier list of all of the agents in Valorant. I haven't necessarily played all of these agents, but I've watched hours of pro play and other YouTubers, and I know how they all solidly fit into the meta. So, without any further ado, let's just hop right into it. Okay, so first off we have Breach. Breach is a really solid character that is extremely useful for entering sites and has a ton of utility to clear out angles and to take a site in the first place. Not as useful later on in the round, save for the ultimate if you know where they're coming from. So, he's not a hard carry of a team, but he's definitely useful in almost every comp on most maps, so he's going to go in the S tier because, especially in the Flash meta we're in right now, he's one of the most solid characters to enter any site and oppose ops. Next up, we have Cypher. Cypher, despite the recent nerfs, is still very viable as a flank watcher and someone to really hold down sites and be notified where the enemies are coming from. Ever since the Killjoy nerfs that have made her more of a have to play by her utility type of character and playing more aggressively on the site, he's become one of the best characters for watching flanks and holding down sites across the map from where the rest of his team is, or even where he is with his tripwires and stuff because of the Killjoy 40-meter nerf. But again, he still isn't as powerful as he was before nerf, so now we're going to have to drop him down to the A tier. Okay, next up, Sova. Sova's a really interesting character because he has probably the best intel gathering abilities in the game, and if you learn a few lineups with him, you can be really good, especially if you can make plays such as Hiko, that really has mastered his arrows and can clear out sites. He's really useful, but he does have a pretty high barrier to entry, so if you don't know as many lineups, you might not be able to get the best out of him. But I think he's still sitting solid in the B tier because he's definitely useful for a lot of comps, and if you're good with him, you're really good. He's just hard to use. Okay, now we have Killjoy. Killjoy is a tough character to really set in stone where she is because she really has changed a lot since her introduction to the game. When she was introduced, she was almost a better Cypher that was able to pick up flanks from across the map, but now she's really focused on trapping the enemies and making the big brain IQ plays on the site you can solo. But if you know a few lineups, you can be really successful on attack and defense. So I'm going to have to put her in the A tier, which a lot of people might think is too high, but personally I think the Sentinels are in a good place for the most part right now. Okay, now we have Viper. Viper was so bad for so long, but has always had a lot of people who valiantly main her. But at the moment, I think her and Brimstone are just nothing compared to Omen. And if there's a choice between running Viper and running Omen, I think Omen's the go-to choice. She has a lot of people who main her, but right now isn't in the most powerful spot she could be with her kit. So I think I'm going to put her in D tier, even though she can be used well and successfully, but she's just not at the power level that Omen's at right now. Okay, now we're hitting our first duelist. The duelists have been a lot of discussion lately because of the meta that's in favor of running 3 duelists, occasionally even 4, but I think that's overkill. And now because they've announced the next agent's going to be a duelist as well, people are worried about 5 stack of duelists, but I think the meta might change by then. But they've definitely been under the spotlight as the most powerful characters in the game. Okay, so Phoenix. Phoenix has a lot of flash potential in this meta, and you can use his utility really effectively to split up sights and line of sight type of vibes. But he is really held back because all of the other duelists have some form of movement, like Raze's satchels, Reyna's ability to go like invulnerable, and Jet's dashes and updrafts. But he doesn't have any of that. But his self-heals without having to get a kill also make him a slight bit higher. But I definitely think that no movement is holding him back, and he might be saved for a more utility-based player. So I think I'm going to put him in B tier. I think he's in a really solid place, but it's not as easy to get easy frags because he can't reposition as well as other agents. But now on to an agent that can definitely reposition well, and that is Raze. Raze is really good with her satchels right now, and you can make a lot of aggressive plays with her, and there's a whole, like, half of the community that's Raze mains and have mastered her movement. And I think once you have mastery, it's considerably better than Jet's movement, and her ult can really clear out sights. But the problem is that she doesn't have any line of sight breakers or any flashes that are usual with other duelists such as Phoenix and Reyna, and even like Jet with her cloud bursts. So I think that she's in a really powerful state right now, and there are a lot of mains of her, but I would definitely have to put her in the same category as Phoenix and Sova just because of the high barrier to entry, because if you don't have her movement mastered that well, you can't get as much use out of her. Similar to Phoenix, where if you don't have like your flashes mastered and you aren't confident in your ability to consistently hit the shots and not need to relocate, then you're not going to be able to get value. Oh god, we're on to the Brimstone. Brimstone is sort of legendary for being terrible and the worst agent in the game, along with Viper. That's the problem right now. The two least strong characters, in my opinion, are the two other controllers than Omen, which make Omen the necessary pick for a lot of maps and a lot of comps. I really hope that soon they can fix the controllers so that it's the interesting class it could be and not just Omen heavy. But for now, you already know where we gotta put Brimstone. Goodbye. Okay, next up we have one that's also had a lot of discussion around her lately, which is Sage. Sage used to be an absolute necessary piece of any comp back in the early beta days and even in the first few patches. But then her and the other Sentinels got nerfed heavily and have reduced her player base quite a bit. I certainly think her healing is still in a decent place, and especially there was the recent buff to her wall, which made it quite powerful and really helpful for locking down B site on Haven, for example. But I still think she's a bit too weak than she was early in the game, and I think that she's a really unique character if they can bring her back into a really balanced state. Because right now the people who play her a lot are people that enjoyed her in the early days and have mastered her techniques. And it's sort of just something to run if you have a healer, if you want a healer but don't want to have Skye. So, I don't know. She's one of the only healers in the game and has a lot of potential, but she's not there just yet. I'm going to put her in the D class along with Viper. Okay, next up we have the rifleist extraordinaire herself, Reyna. I used to main Reyna for quite a while, and she's really the person you want to go to for frags, but she doesn't have as much support for her team. She can do a good entry job with her flashes that have really good placement range, and her ultimate that can clear a site just because of the fear it spreads, but she doesn't have any post-plant power, which is where Phoenix excels in, and even Raze and Jet to be able to block off sight lines and Raze with her grenades. So Reyna, really, you need mechanical skill to play her, and I can't stress that enough. If you don't have mechanical skill, there's no point in playing her. You should probably play a more utility-focused agent, such as Phoenix, or if you don't want to play a duelist like Killjoy or Omen. But she is still the best rifler in the game by far, and I'm going to have to put her up in A tier, but she's just not S tier like she used to be. Next up, we have Omen. And Omen is extremely powerful and by far the best controller and essential to almost every single comp. Right now, I think Omen's in such a good spot and might even need to be nerfed a little bit because his blind can really clear out angles that you don't want to check, like on B-site split, where you have to check heaven and cubbies and all sorts of stuff like that. And his ability to smoke off with some of the most powerful and long-lasting smokes in the game make him an easy S tier choice. Okay, next up we have Jet, who is the Opper. She is the person that you play on Op with for the most part, other than Omen slightly because of his teleport capabilities to reposition. If you want to play with Op, you're going to want to play with Jet, because she can reposition so easily and get into backlines as well to line up easy collateral. But the thing is, she has been knocked down quite a bit because of those recent nerfs to the operator. She would still be one of the most powerful characters in the game and an easy S tier if the operator was more powerful and didn't hurt your economy as much. She's still an absolute wrecker if you can play the op well and don't waste that money and you really need to stay alive. So she is still viable in that way, but not as much because of the op nerfs. So it knocks her down from an S tier to an A tier just because not every team, especially in low ranks, can afford that type of op every round. And finally, the newest agent in the game, Skye. Where are we gonna put Skye? So first of all, let's break down what Skye is. Skye is like Breach's little cousin. She is an initiator as well and has flashes, the first fully controllable flashes in the game, which means that you can throw one and move your mouse around with it to direct it above something or around a wall and even into enemies like B-Site Haven, for example. You can throw it up and through the doors to the left and you can blind almost all of B-Site. So you can fully control it so that you don't blind any of your teammates, but can get behind a full enemy position with the blind before it's shot down. I think she's also really powerful because of the fact that it takes so long for her blinds to wear out. You have a good amount of time to weave it around into the back lines and activate it before it doesn't activate and goes out with a puff of smoke. She also has a good intel gathering capability like Sova, so she's sort of a mix between Breach and Sova, the two extremes. Also, one thing that really excites me about her kit is the fact that it's sort of combined with Sage in the healing aspect. So it's like Breach, Sova, and Sage put into one with equal things in both. Because, of course, nothing can compete with the intel gathering of recon darts, and nothing can compete with the fully controllable flashes of Breach that barely ever flash her own teammates, and not the almost full healing of Sage. But one of the best things about her is that she can do multiple heals at once and has a lot of blinds more than Breach. So, she's a bit lesser in all of the categories, but covers them all so that, especially in this meta, you can get a full flash meta going on your team, but still be able to run triple duelists with, Reyna and Raze that don't have flashes. So, in that way, she's really useful. But I don't think she's quite S tier, but she's definitely really top quality right now and could use maybe a nerf or two. So that's my full tier list. But of course, this is completely subjective, and even if you like playing Brimstone, you can go ahead and do you, you know? It doesn't matter where me or anyone else ranks your favorite agent, because you can keep on playing them and get value out of all of them. That's one of the things I love so much about Valorant, is that you can get value out of pretty much any agent in the game. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Maybe take some advice from what I talked about on each of the agent, and make sure that you comment what agents you would like to see in-depth guides on, because I can definitely talk about almost all of them as I have experience with most. And yeah, peace out, guys.